Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Future Proof, the podcast where we're talking to founders, leaders, and execs all across the B2B and SaaS industries. And if you're looking to future proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. Before we jump into today's episode, as we always do here at Deploy AI, where if you need to talk to us about AI, where it fits in, if you want to do a free audit, we're happy to help. No pitch, just book 30 minutes with us and we'll talk to you about where to get started. Anyway, I am really excited to be joined by Lindsey Groepper from Panblast. Lindsey, thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate the invite. I'm excited for our conversation. Based on our pre-hit record convo, we have a lot we could potentially cover.
We absolutely can. So let's start always with the leader's journey. Tell everybody about your background, and then we'll get into Panblast.
Yeah, I am one of those fortunate people that found my probably forever home at a really young age, but I just celebrated my 20th year with Panblast, which is—
By the way, congratulations.
Thank you. The ripe, young, impressionable age of 26 was Panblast's first employee and did every job you could think of up until today. But I went to school for what I do. So I went to school for communications and was working at a really large global agency right after school and found my way to Indianapolis and had an interview with a company that was called Blast Media at the time that didn't even have a website. But I met with the two founders and they sold me on the vision. We had great chemistry and I just said, screw it. There will always be other jobs for me at 26 if this doesn't work out. And the rest was history. That was 20 years ago.
That is amazing.
We built Blast Media. And then last year, right about a year ago, we made an exit and we were acquired by Pan Global, which is a larger communications and marketing agency. And so now we're running as Panblast, our own division, separate P&L. And we focus on one thing and one thing only, which is PR for B2B SaaS companies, which is why we are talking today.
Absolutely. That's why I'm so excited to have you on, because we have not had a focused PR company in the B2B SaaS world. And I think most of our audience is going to stand up and pay close attention. So talk to us about what you've seen in the industry over the last few years, and then we'll talk about where it's going.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is we are not a tech company. We're not a software company ourselves. That's who we service. But we, as a service business for this industry, ride the wave along with the SaaS companies. So right. What you all experienced the last 5 years, so did we. Like, we built our business on these high growth at all costs companies with high valuations, significant funding. And I don't need to walk through the whole history of what happened after that. But then if you sort of fast forward to now, is the vast majority of our client base is now filled with profitable, steady growth companies, which is what the market demands. So there were some peaks, there were some big peaks after COVID for sure. And we call those the good years. And then there were definitely some valleys, but we were right there with you all and understand the demands that go along with building and running a SaaS business, which is ultimately why our clients choose to work with us, is because they feel like we understand them, speak the language. Our learning curve is fairly short just because this is what we eat, live, and breathe every day.
Love it. Love it. So before we get into where everything's going, just talk to us, I guess, a little bit about because we talked a little bit beforehand, and one of the things that we've experienced, and again, it's all industries, but I feel like the SaaS industry, because it's getting so crowded, is experiencing this. And I don't know if everyone is as aware, but it's about trust, brand trust, and how the people are becoming, and especially the founders and execs are becoming an integral part of that trust story. What are you seeing, and kind of how do you help guide your clients?
Yeah. You're right. We have a number of different things colliding right now. One is we are just living in a era right now of a lot of misinformation, a lot of distrust, just as a society. And then we have layered on top of that, this age group of millennials that are now decision makers across the board. They're not only your potential partners, they are the key hires that you're looking to make, heading up the portfolio decisions at VCs, and they're also your prospects. So this era that we're living in, plus this generation of decision makers, is a generation that they value connection, they value purpose. And so if you aren't lifting up the people behind your brand, is you will get left behind. And it's interesting because I still will have conversations with CEOs and they just say, well, I don't believe in brand, or what's the ROI of investing in brand? And it's like, how are we even having this conversation today? Like, trust is the new currency, and being able to show that there are living, breathing human beings with a point of view and with a heart behind these companies is what is going to make people choose investing in company A versus company B, working at company A versus company B. But it's still an uphill battle that we're facing. And truly, I don't know if we'll ever get over that. It's like, if you're a founder and you don't believe that it's important to have a strong brand, it's like, I'm not going to convince you that you should, right? It's either you fundamentally understand that people have to know that you exist before they buy your product and have to feel good about it. I can't convince you otherwise.
Right. And you think about it, and some of the biggest brands out there, and you know who the founder is, you know who some of the key people are, whether it's, again, the secondary thing would be the investors behind it, but you're starting to see that more and more, to where people can say, oh, again, the easy ones are when you do Sam Altman at OpenAI and you do, Elon at X, like those are the ones everybody knows. But you start to do that, people know who the CEOs and the founders are at some of the major SaaS companies out there. And it's because of what you're talking about. And I think it's only going to proliferate from there.
Yeah. And when you think about, if you're listening to this and you think about the people that you trust, these aren't, you're not necessarily born into the family, but people over time that you've met, whether that is a colleague, a boss, a spouse, a partner, but a friend, that have earned your trust. If you think about how they did that, for me, it's about consistency. They show up when they say they're going to show up. I know what to expect. They're not all over the place and, screwing with my emotions. They back up what they say with action. That's the people that gain my trust. And so it's really no different when we think about like a PR strategy. Is, yes, the founder needs to be out there, but that can't be like the only strategy, right? You want to back up what you're saying with data. So ensure that you're doing original research that supports what I'm saying. Whether I go to LinkedIn or I go to a podcast or reading an industry newsletter, I consistently want to see the brand or that founder or the spokesperson that is giving me the same feeling no matter where I go, and making me feel comfortable that they're going to be there and show up for me. And then that you're releasing products when you say you're going to. You're making changes when you say you will, and you're promoting that. So really, I think about consistency in order to gain trust. And so certainly elevating the founder or spokesperson is a big part of that, but there's a lot of other components that yield that consistent voice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's just so important what you're talking about. And what you said, it's a part of a strategy, right? And I think, probably when you work with clients, right, there's a bunch of components. As we look down the road, right, obviously AI is changing everything, especially in the SaaS world, right? How do you see it going? And then how do you kind of coach your clients along this journey?
Yeah, there's a lot of different lenses that we can look at it through. And I'm going to really look at it through like discoverability and a brand standpoint and awareness standpoint, because this is not even like 5 years ago. This is really in the last probably 2 years. But when you think about how prospects, partners, whoever traditionally found you, one of the biggest areas was always, why they just go to Google, right? And so how do we optimize that experience with our ad strategy, with our SEO, all of that? And I'm going to exclude there's word of mouth and all the events and things that you do. But when we talk about that online environment, that's really where AI, and we're living it right now. Like, it is the wild, wild west right now in terms of
it really is.
But that world now has completely shifted. And so all the money that you have maybe put into traditional marketing and more of that SEO and paid strategy, like, it has been flipped on its head. And truly, if you feel like your marketing team is scrambling, give them grace because literally every marketing team is scrambling right now.
Amen.
So give them a little bit of grace, please. But now it's this 0-click search where I do it as well now too. I will go to Google, I search in a much more complex search query because I know I'm going to get the AI overview. And typically that's like gives me enough of what I need. Now, depending on the search, I'm not going to necessarily trust everything it says, but depending on what I need, sometimes that gets me what I need and I'm done. I don't click anywhere. There's some sources on the side, or more often I'm now going into my preferred LLM, which is usually Claude or ChatGPT, and I'm starting my search there. And that is where things start to get pretty wild for everyone is AI search.
100% agree.
So that's really right now what we're working with our clients on is how are you appearing in AI search? And that is a question that if your marketing team isn't looking to answer, then you should be challenging them because that is an area that is where the future is going in terms of how you're being discovered. And if you're not putting some sort of effort into that strategy, you will quickly find that you're being left behind. And I don't know, have you experienced prospects finding you through AI search?
Yes. And it's hard to understand how it's happening. But the one thing I knew, right? And again, I try to tell everybody that listens to the podcast is that the numbers are underreported. It's somewhere between 75 and 90% of all Google searches now lead to 0 clicks, right? And you know, I did an AI search the other day or just a Google search to see what Google would say. And all they had was data from a year and a half ago. And it was 60% then.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, it's much higher than that, right? To your point. So if you're worried about how to show up organically, now you're even more worried because it's really based on LLMs and how you show up and how they're doing it. And we don't have as much insight into how those algorithms work yet. If you're an SEO person, this is a monumental change in your business. But if you're a SaaS company trying to get found, to your point, you're scrambling, right? So that's why I agree with you about giving the marketing team some grace because there's not a playbook right now for this.
No, and everyone's organic traffic is tanked. I mean, we see it too. We're fortunate because we get to sort of trial and error and test theories and practices with our clients, and because we see it in our own business, and then we're able to apply it. Because the crazy thing is the way AI search engines, what they're looking for sources is completely different than how traditionally Google has weighted it. So it was all like backlinks. Right. Well, I'm not saying the backlinks don't matter anymore, but they're certainly mattering less. And so what we're really diving into with our clients, and we've invested in an AI tool to help us see behind the curtain with AI search visibility, is for specific prompts. How are you appearing versus your competitors? And then it also will show us what sources is, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google AI, what are they saying are the reputable sources to pull this information? And boy, you can get in the weeds really fast. But what it shows us is, okay, this is what the AI search engines are saying are reputable sources for this specific prompt. Of course, all of the different LLMs are weighting different sites differently. So there's not like consistency across that, but at least what it shows us is where we should be focusing part of our efforts. So we can see that there are specific media sites that they're using as sources, and we can see what specific story that is.
Right.
And we can make sure that we're trying to get inside those media sources, but it's also showing us that individuals linked in long form posts are pulling if they're contextually relevant to that particular prompt. And so we are shifting our efforts for many of our clients into a LinkedIn strategy for their primary spokesperson, because the LLMs are saying this is the type of content that we're finding effective. But then we're also seeing Wikipedia is a big source. Reddit is a big source. So what are clients supposed to do with that?
Right.
But to your point, it's the Wild West and no one's quite figured out the algorithm, but at least it's providing us with data-driven insights so that we know where to focus part of our efforts. And we've done some internal testing with ourselves and with our own content. And so far what we're seeing works. And so like we created a specific blog post just based on what the LLMs were telling us was ranking for a specific prompt for us as a SaaS PR agency. And since we put it up, it's been cited 30 times as a top 10 source for that prompt across LLMs. And it's like, okay, so this is working.
You're on to something, right? Yeah, now it's
something. But that has been really the biggest shift that we've seen with our clients is the AI search visibility and how we can, at least to the best of our ability, and based on the data that we're being fed, help them in being more discoverable on those engines.
Amazing. And I think to piggyback on kind of what you're doing is the takeaway here, if you're a founder exec in this world, is that you have to start paying attention and talking to companies like yourself of what they're seeing, and then testing, right? To your point about testing it and just testing the 5 major LLMs and making them cite their sources of how that, and then reverse engineering some of it, right? Again, I think we're all becoming, I don't know if I want to say algorithm junkies, but we're starting to really have to understand how to think and at least understand how the algorithms may work, right? No one's got like we were talking about before, no one's got this playbook. We're all creating the playbook, the new playbook on the fly.
Yes.
And I think this is why collaboration, like on these kinds of podcasts and with your clients, are so important, right? Because we're all trying to figure out the same, what's the new game, and it's changing so fast that no one can keep up with it, right?
No one.
Yeah. So collaboration to me it's been my key takeaway for the last 6 months and I wish I even had been touting this longer, but collaboration is part of the new future. And I think you can't have enough good partners. So, but anyway, there's so many things, Lindsey, we can cover. I kind of want to get your take on where you think things are going and then how it fits into the go-to-market strategy. Because we were talking before on the podcast, so we need to cover some of that because, half of our guests are doing founder-led growth and they're, in the driver's seat there. So what are you seeing and kind of where do you see it affecting the go-to-market outside the SEO?
Yeah. Founder-led growth is definitely a valuable strategy to a point. I almost equate it with like 10 years ago, media relations was like the channel. People would call us and they would just want to invest in our services for media relations because the media was alive and well. It doesn't look like what it looks like today. And so it was like the channel. I sort of look at founder-led growth like that now, where it's a channel and it's an A strategy and it's a really good one, but it can't be the only strategy. Similar to media relations, still alive and well. Our clients pay us to execute their media relations strategy, but not as a single channel anymore. We are rounding that strategy out with a lot of different things, media relations being part of that strategy. And I feel the same way with founder-led is you're doing an awesome job of creating trust, which is today's currency. So like, awesome, keep doing that. But you really need to be filling in then that strategy with other places that people are going to try and find you. It goes back to that consistency. It's awesome if you have a robust LinkedIn, keep it going. But when they're going to a podcast, they're going to national media, if they're going to a newsletter, if they're going to an event, like you're not there. And so there needs to be a cohesive brand strategy as well to help round all of that out and create that consistency and that trust. Because at some point, your company is going to get to a place where you aren't the only spokesperson, or maybe you have an exit and the brand's retained and you aren't. And then what happens to the brand? And these are things that companies think about when they're looking to acquire you too, is if you're solely a founder-led brand, like, yeah, it's good you have brand equity and they're like, we're going to have to keep him. But also like, if you want to exit at that point, but they're like, nope, that's not part of the deal because you've created this brand around you. That's something you have to think about for the future as well, is do you want that to be your future where you're locked in no matter what because you've created the brand only around you, and without you, is there a brand? So that's like a forward-looking thing that you really have to consider as well. So it's a good strategy. It just shouldn't be the only way that you're sort of building this trust for the brand. Right.
I totally agree with everything you just said, it's just spot on.
Which is rare.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's like we were talking about before. What's crazy is no one knows exact answers, but they do know what's working and how to turn into it. And I think part of it, what you're kind of highlighting is that strategies have to evolve, and they have to evolve faster than we are traditionally used to. Things that we were uncomfortable doing before, we have to get comfortable doing. And I feel like AI is pushing us faster than many of us want to go. Right. And so kind of stuff that you're highlighting is exactly that. We have some uncomfortability. And, so I've talked to a few of the founder-led growth guys recently, and it's like, to your point, it's great what they're doing. Right. But at some point, someone has to be able to tell that story as well, because it's good for the brand. And I think as they try to give that up, there's that transition period that they have to go through. Right. And I think that that's an evolution, right? And I think companies like yourselves really help them navigate that.
Right.
So let's jump into a couple other things. So as a good transition into that is, we were talking earlier about the go-to-market, right? And you guys are obviously working with clients there, and you're doing some of that on your own. Talk to us about how you see go-to-market, and lead generation, factoring in here, because everybody that watches the podcast, that's their growth mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah. It has changed, and it's made me uncomfortable. I'll be honest. We were one of the first PR agencies to really optimize around SaaS PR agency. Really, when the SaaS market first started to evolve, we had a lot of B2B tech clients that had transitioned to a cloud delivery model. And all of a sudden we're starting to hear the term SaaS, and we're like, hold up. Actually, the vast majority of our clients are SaaS companies, and doesn't appear any agencies optimizing for this. So let's do the thing. Then COVID hit, SaaS exploded, good years. We were perfectly positioned for that. And we fortunately, our inbound engine, as a result, has always been strong, because if you are a B2B SaaS company looking for a PR agency that specializes in it, we're come up, right? No matter where you search, we're optimized for, in the game along. But now with the way that search is changing, is we have to do things differently. So we're definitely doing the AI search visibility stuff. And we're changing our own site content it's just, I can go into a whole other episode on that. I won't. But what it has forced us to do is also pay more attention to outbound. So, and I know a lot of you probably like rolling your eyes like, oh my gosh, boohoo, you're just now having to do outbound. But we have always done outbound. Well, we relied on like a third party to do it. And it worked for many years up until the last 2 years. It was an email-based outbound partner, delivered great results, but then email died, and so did our outbound. So we've tried a number of combination of things. We have a human being BDR that's responsible for outbound, and outbound's just tough. It's really tough right now. But the one thing that we had not tried, and this was really because of me and my trepidation and comfort level, we had not tried an AI outbound tool. And finally, we looked into a couple and decided on one called Buzz AI. And this isn't like a promo for Buzz AI, but I feel like if I'm telling you it works, someone's going to no doubt be like, which one was it? It's called Buzz AI. But why I was so nervous about it is because it's tied to me as a human. It is tied to my LinkedIn, and it sends connection requests, LinkedIn messages, and then it will send emails, voicemails with my voice. But like, it's not just this like nebulous AI assistant. It's me. And we've all been victim to like really, really shitty AI outbound.
Yes, we have.
And it's so easy to spot. And I was really uncomfortable with it. So I first tried the AI assisted outreach. No, thank you. It just wasn't me. It wasn't connecting the dots the right way. So I like abandoned that. And I'm only sending messages that I write. So there's no AI assistant on it. So it's taking more time, but for me, it's worth it. But so far, it's been a really good tool. Been pleasantly surprised when I hit like go live. I was just waiting for it to hit like the wrong person at the wrong time, or hit the same person 3 times, or whatever the case is. But the amount of upfront work I put in versus what's happening in the background now is working really well. And it's a low cost investment. Now, as SaaS companies, you're going to have a much more robust go-to-market in terms of campaigns and who you're targeting. And you might have, a bunch of different verticals and all of that. We're pretty straightforward in ours. So this tool works for us. But AI is a new frontier for outbound for us. And so far, so good. We'll see. But it is the inbound, like relying on inbound and relying on organic search. Those days are done, and we're just getting in front of it. Our inbound engine has remained consistent, but we know it's like only to a point. So we're investing in the future of what we see is coming to make sure that we're poised to replace if we see any drop in that.
Yeah. And I think the big takeaway is all the channels are being disrupted in some way, shape, or form by AI. And I think the key takeaway is you have to try and test, right? Yeah. Try new things and test. But it has to your point about why you picked Buzz, it more matched what you were trying to do and your comfort level of, right? Of how much automation you were comfortable with versus, and I think that as you're, if you're a SaaS founder and you're paying attention to this, you're thinking, okay, if I'm running paid ads, right, I have to think about how do I stand out. If I'm running outbound, right, I got to think about how do I blend automation and AI with my SDR team, right? And we've been preaching this in our go-to-market system at Deploy. We try to help the same way because it's more of how do I make your SDR team 3 to 10 times more productive with AI, not replace them. It's just most B2B SaaS founders, I'm going to get to a question here, is when they think about, like, they have 10 SDRs, right? They're thinking, okay, if I want to scale, now it's scaling the SDR team. No, not necessarily. With AI, if they do it smartly, it's how do I make those 10 times more productive or 5 times more productive? So you don't have to add headcount, right, to get where you want to be. You have to have a great, solid team that knows how to execute, but uses AI as a co-pilot.
Right.
Is that's how I see the future?
No,
how
you're
do you see
totally
it?
right. And part of the reason part of the push that finally made me say, okay, let's try it, is because my BDR is out on paternity leave, or was going on paternity leave for 3 months. And so it was like, well, I'm not going to hire someone or like try and look for someone who can just work for the next 3 months and try and teach them our business. It was like that can't be the fix. It would be dumb of me to not consider an AI solution, and especially. So that like really pushed me to like, let's do the thing.
Yeah.
And if it continues to work, the great thing is when this person comes back from paternity leave is we can change the seat to him. So it's like his LinkedIn versus mine. So we can still do outbound, but then focus on a lot more high value, high touch outbound, and also manage more like inbound and fulfillment, so that he doesn't have to just, spin his wheels. And there was an interesting comparison is the revenue team at our parent company were working the same trade show for prospecting. And we work with more of the like emerging to high growth, and they're more mid-market and up. So we're trying to schedule meetings at this show that we're going to be attending. And in the same time period, I have been able to schedule more meetings than they have using this AI tool. And they have like 2 or 3 people on it doing the thing. And I just did the upfront.
What a great example.
Hit go live, and I've had better results. So that to me was like a nice test comparison. I don't know where it'll end up, but to your point, I didn't need to, number one, hire someone to like backfill this person while they were out. I was able to do it. And then also in comparison versus having human bodies do the manual work, I just took the upfront time, and now it's running in the background, and I'm focused on other things that are more high value. So it's been a good test for me. And it's also been like a good reminder on the AI side that if you just handed an AI tool to your SDR and said, go, you would get very bad results, because the upfront work just wouldn't happen most likely. If you just list, quick build a campaign and hit go, there's going to be bad AI messages all over town.
Yeah.
But I took the upfront time to like really make sure it was the right people, the right message, but that time was worth it then once you hit the campaign live. So I wouldn't just say, yes, put this tool in and it's going to work for everybody. You have to be able to like still be cautious with it.
Yeah. But the good takeaway of this message is exactly what we've been preaching here on all of our podcasts, is that when you have a use case like you just mentioned, and you spend the time to get the AI right, you really can take the mundane and repetitive stuff out of the equation quickly to, exactly what you just said. Now you can focus on much more higher value stuff, why the AI is your co-pilot in the background, right? Or your digital coworker. That is, to me, where AI plays best right now. It's a phenomenal tool if set up and configured and trained the right way.
For sure. One other interesting anecdote is because, and this just proves a point that like no one has it figured out and everyone's sort of trialing AI right now. When I did this small test of 5 people with this tool with the AI generated messages, and so it went out to 5 people, these messages, and they were so bad. I immediately sent these people another message on LinkedIn and said, please disregard the above message. In full transparency, I'm trying a new AI tool. I said, it clearly has some work to do. Sorry for cluttering your email. And 3 out of the 5 people responded to me and they were like, oh my gosh, no big deal. Thanks for letting me know. And it like started a conversation.
Right.
Because everyone's in this boat, but I just couldn't leave it out there as this like this dumb message, right? I like felt it in my soul. I had to say, my bad. Here's why it's bad. And people were cool with it. They're like, oh, no big deal. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. And that's what's great. I think you're right. I think everybody knows that people are playing and it kudos to you, because I think following up with them was the smartest thing to do, right? Just let them know, because people are fine with it. It really will come down to, and again, it's a great thing for you for trust, because, when you talk to them again, they're great conversations, right? All right. So let me put your kind of crystal ball in front of you as you look down the next 18 months. Right. And I think I was telling you about, I read the Medium article about what ChatGPT 5, the leap it's going to make in the next few weeks. As you look down the next 18 months, what are you seeing? And where, if you're coaching, a SaaS client, right? What are you telling them about what they need to be thinking about in the next 18 months?
I would say if you're not thinking about how to build trust with your audience, that you will be left behind. Trust has never not been important. I mean, we've been talking about building brand trust since the inception of our agency, but we are at an inflection point right now that if you don't start investing in your brand equity and your brand trust, you will get left behind. The world is going to be saturated with bad AI.
Yes.
It is, right? I mean, we see it right now. So imagine what it's like in the next
a year from now, right? 18 months from now. Yeah.
If you're not creating real human connections and content and getting your personal point of view out there in a meaningful way. And by the way, in the sources that the LLMs care about, you're going to get left behind. And there's one thing that has been true that will stay true even 18 months from now. But it is a masterful quote that if you focus on scaling revenue, you will win quarters. If you focus on scaling a strong brand, you will win categories. And that will continue to be true.
That's huge.
Invest in the brand in order to get ahead, and especially in this era of misinformation and mistrust is like more important than it's ever been.
I love that. I'm probably going to make that the title of this podcast, because that's fantastic. Honestly, Lindsey, that is, I hope you don't mind. I will be using that on future podcasts. I will give you credit. I've had so many good things. I call AI digital coworkers, and I still give Alexander DeRitter from Smith OS credit. I just think it's great. I think that's where Copilot came from Microsoft. But yeah, I really, really believe that you're right, is brand trust is everything right now. And again, it's not something you have to change overnight. You just have to start to put it into your strategy, your go forward strategy, right?
Yeah. And the blocking and tackling, I mean, it's not that different. The blocking and tackling of how to do that.
Right.
You have to do it, or whether it's working with partners or your smart in-house team. But if you haven't had a conversation with your marketing lead about this yet, it is time to tee up that conversation.
Yeah, 100% agree. Lindsey, thank you so much for sharing it. Is there any last thoughts you want to share with the audience? And then please tell them how to get in touch with you guys.
Yeah, no, this has been super fun. Thank you. My goal is that always your listeners took like one thing away today that they didn't know that they can put into action immediately. So if you're listening, I hope you at least took one little nugget away from today's conversation. But no, the biggest thing I want to reiterate is if you feel like your marketing team is scrambling, it's legit. give them some grace. Everybody is at this time. It is the wild, wild west, and we're all trying to figure it out. But keep fighting the good fight, because it's going to be an interesting next 18 months.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So we're going to have all the links in the show notes for you, but tell everybody how to get in touch with you guys.
Yeah. Our agency, you can just get in touch with us at panblastpr.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm just at Lindsey Groepper, and then you'll see it in the show notes. But even if you want a quick AI visibility audit, that's something that we can provide. You don't have to work with us. Just to see where you are against your competitors for certain prompts. That's something that we can provide, and you can take and run with it and do whatever you need to do in-house, but happy to chat.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for just sharing your insights. It's been an awesome episode. So thank you again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Future Proof. And guys, this is exactly why you need to continue watching. It's not for me. It's really for the guests that we bring on that are just so poignant and relevant to this industry. So thank you for spending time with us. And until tomorrow's episode, we will see you then. Bye, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.